Welcome. This is Miss Bulla. Today's lesson is about the characteristics of living things. We're going to look at 8 characteristics. Number 1, all living things are made of cells. Many organisms consist of only one cell, while others, like people, consist of trillions of cells. Bacterial cells are unicellular, or made of only one cell. These are the simplest cells. Archaebacteria is typically found in extreme environments, such as this sulfur spring, or near the ocean vents that are very hot. We call archaebacteria extremophiles because they can survive in places that other living organisms can't. But we also know now that these archaebacteria can be found in our intestinal gut, our skin, and near the gum line of our mouth, where plaque builds up when we do not brush our teeth well. Eubacteria, on the other hand, is commonly found everywhere, including all over and inside of all living things, and cannot survive extreme environments. Protists are unicellular, multicellular, and can also colonize and live as a group. Any organism that is not a fungus, not a plant or animal, and has a nucleus is considered a protist. This is why there are so many types of protist. Here you can see a paramecium, which is a unicellular organism. On the right side is algae, and algae can live in colonies. That's where it's typically found, in colonies. It contains chloroplast, so it can go through photosynthesis like plants, but it's not a plant because it doesn't have roots, stems, or leaves like plants. Fungi is a more advanced type of cell. They can be single-celled or very complex multicellular organisms. They are found in just about any environment or habitat, but most live on the land, mainly in soil or on plant material rather than in the sea or fresh water. Some are decomposers. They break down dead plant matter. Some are parasites of plants causing disease, such as mildews. A very small number of fungi cause diseases in animals. In humans, these include skin diseases such as athlete's foot, ringworm, and thrush. But of course, as humans, our favorite type of fungus is the mushroom, which we can eat. But be careful, some of those are not edible and they are poisonous. Plant cells are an incredibly diverse and beautiful group. The green that you see in these cells is, of course, chloroplast. Plant cells are multicellular and can be very complex in nature because they contain many organelles with specific functions. Animal cells are the most advanced multicellular organism. They contain many organelles that plant cells do. And since they do not have chloroplasts, they have to make their own food. All animals start out as one cell and then divide and differentiate into other types. Once these cells have differentiated, they become tissue and organs and the systems of the body. And they all start out as stem cells. Now, sponges are the simplest animals, but still have complex cells. Here are just a few cells that are found in more advanced animals like us. In the middle is a stem cell. As an embryo develops, the stem cell changes into all these different types of cells, and these are just a few of them. The shape of each cell determines the function that it will have in the body. For example, a nerve cell. It has long extensions that communicate with the rest of the body. You can see how this one nerve cell a neuron is sending a signal to the next neuron. This happens over and over until the nerve cell becomes nervous tissue, and the tissue becomes the brain and the spinal cord and all the nerves that travel throughout your body. Some of the other types of cells in advanced animals include muscle cells, immune cells that are found all throughout the body to fight disease, blood cells, bone cells, epithelial cells, otherwise you know them as skin cells, fat cells, and reproductive cells. Now, back to the characteristics of living things. Number 2, speaking of reproductive cells, all living things reproduce. There are 2 main methods for making more cells: sexual reproduction between a male and a female, and asexual reproduction, where a single organism reproduces on its own. This is also called cloning. Number 3, living things are based on a universal genetic code or language. In the cell is DNA, which controls the function and structure of the organism. Number 4, all living things grow and develop. Humans are, of course, very complex and develop from a single cell that divides again and again. Once the stem cell has differentiated into trillions of cells, you have an embryo. As an embryo, it grows and develops into a fetus, and then eventually, once the baby is born, the baby will go through many stages to develop into an adult human. But some organisms are single-celled. Do they grow and develop? Well, they do grow. As you can see in this picture of a bacterial cell going through asexual reproduction, also called binary fission, the offspring are smaller than the parent. So yes, it grows, but as you can see, it is an exact replica of its parent. Or is it? It is very little, and if any development takes place, it's going to be difficult to see. There is a field of microbial cellular biology that is studying just this, how a bacterial cell can change and develop due to an environmental pressure. So you see, the answer to life is not always such a simple one. Number 5, all living things respond to their environment. External factors, such as changes in light or temperature, stimulate a response in living things. In this photo, you see a prime example of response. These sunflowers are facing the sunlight, hence the name sunflower. So, while the Earth is rotating around the sun and changes the direction of the light, young developing sunflowers respond by moving so that the sun's rays are directly shining on the center of the flower. The process is controlled by a circadian rhythm similar to the animal's circadian rhythm. Pause here and click on this link to learn more. What type of things do animals do in response to their environment? Well, animals respond to their environment by hibernating or migrating or even changing the color of their fur so that their predators cannot find them in their environment. The snowshoe hare changes fur color due to a decrease in melanin production during shorter days. Now, this is not a change that the animal does consciously. It is actually programmed genetically for protection from predators. Ultimately, all the responses that any living thing makes is to make sure that it survives. And most of these changes are innate. Number 6. All living things maintain a stable internal balance. These birds don't just like each other, they are huddled up next to each other to maintain body heat from their cold environment. Maintaining an internal stable balance is also known as homeostasis. For us, this includes sweating when we are hot to cool ourselves down, or shivering to warm ourselves up. Plants have several amazing ways to maintain homeostasis. You are looking at a stomata. It is found on the underside of a plant's leaf. And it opens and closes to control the amount of water, nutrients, and gas that can enter or exit the plant. When the sun is out and the temperature is high, the stomata may close to keep water in. But at night, when it cools off, they may open to release waste such as carbon dioxide and any toxins that are in the plant. Number 7. This is one of my favorite characteristics. All living things need materials and energy to live. In other words, we have got to eat. For us, food is not only a necessity, but also a pleasure. However, for some forms of life, it is entirely mechanical. Take plants, for example. How do they obtain energy? Well, I'm sure that you have studied photosynthesis in school many times before, but just to review, plants take in water, carbon dioxide, and with the energy from the sun, they will make sugar and release oxygen as a waste. So you could say that plants not only make energy for themselves, but for us as well. Wow, this is why I'm glad that I'm a vegetarian and there are lots of plants to eat. Fungi do not eat like us or make their own energy from the sun like plants. Instead, they feed by absorption of nutrients from the environment around them. They accomplish this by growing through and within the plants on which they are feeding. Then they release enzymes into their food and digest it externally. Once this is done, they absorb the food molecules that result. And finally, number 8. Taken as a group, living things change over time. This is also known as evolution. Even though organisms may experience change during a lifetime, evolution is something that occurs over generations as a group. Over hundreds of thousands of years, or even millions of years, the genetic change of a population can have a dramatic effect. And as with every other characteristic we have looked at, the ultimate advantage of this characteristic is survival. Most evolutionary changes that have occurred help an individual live longer so that their DNA can be passed on to the next generation.